I still remember the exact moment my stepmom tried to erase me from her life. The gym was packed. The air was heavy with the smell of cheap perfume, hairspray, and plastic from the graduation folders. My whole senior class sat in rows of shiny blue gowns. Parents filled the bleachers, waving phones and balloons. The principal's voice echoed off the walls as name after name was called. When they said mine, I walked across the stage, heart pounding, legs trembling inside my heels. I took the diploma from the principal, forced a smile for the photo, and walked off the stage. I should have been happy. I should have been thinking about my future, about my friends, about late-night parties and new beginnings. Instead, every step I took toward the end of the row felt like I was walking towards something dark, because my stepmom was smiling. Not a warm smile, not a proud smile. It was that tight, stretched, glittering smile she used when she was about to do something awful and pretend it was for my own good. I saw her standing near the end of the bleachers when we were dismissed to go find our families. My stepbrother, Tyler, was next to her, hunched over his phone like he always was. My Aunt Lisa stood a little apart, arms folded, shifting her weight nervously. Her eyes kept flicking between me and Melissa like she already knew something was coming. My dad wasn't there. He should have been the loudest voice in that gym, yelling my name, whistling loud enough to get dirty looks from the principal. He should have been the one taking blurry photos and ugly crying. But he was gone. He'd been gone for months. And now, she was all I had left. "Haley, over here," Melissa called out, lifting one arm and waving like this was the happiest day of her life. Her other hand held her phone, angled just right, pretending to record. I walked over, clutching my diploma so tightly the cardboard edges dug into my palm. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, a cold, quick peck that barely touched my skin. "There's our graduate," she said brightly. There it was again. Our. She loved that word when it made her look like the good guy. Tyler glanced up from his phone for a second. "Nice job," he muttered, then looked down again. Aunt Lisa reached out and pulled me into a real hug, the kind that squeezed the air out of my lungs. "I'm so proud of you," she whispered into my ear. "Your dad would be losing his mind right now." I swallowed around the lump in my throat and pulled back, wiping under my eye before the mascara could smear. "Yeah," I said quietly. He would. We moved outside with the river of families and graduates, spilling into the sunny parking lot. Everyone was taking pictures, shouting names, holding bouquets, crying, laughing. Balloons bounced against car doors. Camera flashes popped in every direction. That's when Melissa decided to do it. "Everyone, come here. I want a picture," she called out, her voice slicing through the noise. Some of my classmates and their parents were nearby. A couple of teachers I knew. My old neighbor, Mrs. Green, stood not too far away, watching like she wasn't sure whether to step in or stay back. And standing near a lamppost, straightening his tie, was Mr. Patel, my dad's lawyer. He'd come as a representative of your father, as he'd said on the phone. He was farther away, but I saw his eyes on us, watching. He knew why he was there. Melissa had no idea. She dragged Tyler and me together, throwing one arm around each of us, that perfect navy dress fitting her like she'd had it custom made for proud stepmom at graduation. Someone snapped a photo, then another. She tilted her head just so, like this was her big moment. "All right, now that we have that," she said, smoothing a hand over her hair and straightening her blazer. "We should probably tell you, Haley. It's time." The way she said it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Tell me what?" I asked, even though there was a part of me that already knew. The part that had been waiting for the other shoe to drop for months. She put on her sad face. The one she used at the funeral. Lips pressed together, brows slightly pinched, eyes shiny but never actually wet. "Well," she sighed, patting my arm like I was a nervous patient, "Tyler and I, we're moving." The word hung in the air between us. "Moving?" I repeated. She nodded, eyes wide and fake soft. "We found a great place. New town, fresh start, better schools for Tyler, better neighborhood. It's what your father would have wanted." I almost laughed at that, but I didn't. "And me?" I asked. There was the tiniest pause, not even a full second, but I felt it like a crack straight through my chest. "Oh, honey," she said in that gentle voice that always made people believe she was kind. "You're an adult now. You're 18. You don't need to be running after your stepmom. It's time you stand on your own 2 feet. So, I said slowly, carefully, I'm not moving with you? Her smile brightened, as if I'd just got the answer right on a quiz. No, you're not. My ears started to ring. There it was, out loud, in front of everyone. She'd waited for this moment. She could have told me in the car. She could have told me last week, last month. She could have sat me down at the kitchen table and had a quiet, painful talk. But no, she chose my graduation day. She chose this exact moment, when I had a diploma in my hand and a cap on my head and every eye on us, to cut me off from what little family I had left and make herself look strong and realistic. Don't look so shocked, she added, laughing lightly. We've been hinting at this for a while. No, she had been dropping little comments, little jabs. You know we can't support you forever. This house is too big for us. You'll have to figure it out soon. But never. We're going to abandon you on graduation day in front of everybody. A little circle had formed around us. People didn't mean to eavesdrop, but their bodies turned. My best friend Mia stood a few steps behind me, her eyes wide, mouth slightly open. Mrs. Green watched with a frown. A couple of my teachers pretended to be checking their phones, but they weren't fooling anyone. Mr. Patel shifted closer, still silent, waiting. You're just leaving me? I asked, my voice calm even though my pulse pounded at my temples. Melissa tilted her head. You're not a child anymore, Haley. We have our own life to live. Your father is gone. Things change. You'll be fine. And the house? I asked. That got her. Her eyes flickered, quick and sharp, before her smile returned. The house is taken care of, she said smoothly. We've already got everything in motion. Tyler and I will be out in a few days. You can, figure things out for yourself. You mean I can figure out where to live? I said, not raising my voice, not backing down. She didn't answer that. Instead, she laughed again, a little louder, a little too high. You're smart. You'll manage. Maybe you can stay with friends, get a job, start your adult life. Not everyone gets a safety net. Something inside me shifted. Not a hot, explosive burst of rage. It was quieter than that, heavier. It felt like a door closing. I looked at her. The perfect hair, the neat makeup, the expensive earrings. The satisfied way she stood there, shoulders back, chest lifted. You really have no idea, I thought. She thought today was her victory, her big moral lesson, her tough love moment. She had no idea that I'd been preparing for this. She had no idea that she wasn't the only one in this story who could play the long game. Because what she didn't know, what she had absolutely no clue about, was that I wasn't the one standing on the edge of a cliff with nowhere to go. She was. I took a slow breath and felt the weight of the sealed envelope tucked inside my bag. I'd signed those documents weeks ago in a quiet office with heavy shelves and a ticking clock on the wall. That envelope carried more power than she'd had in years, and she didn't know it even existed. I see, I said softly. She mistook my calm for defeat. Of course she did. She reached out and patted my arm again, like she was giving me comfort. You'll thank me one day, she said. This is how real life works. People move on. Behind her, I saw my Aunt Lisa's face growing red, her jaw tight, her hands curling into fists at her sides. She opened her mouth to say something, but I caught her eye and gave the tiniest shake of my head. Not yet. My dad's lawyer moved one step closer, hands still calmly folded, eyes alert. I looked back at Melissa and thought about all the nights she walked past me like I was furniture. All the times she rolled her eyes at my questions about college. All the little cuts. All the subtle ways she made sure I knew my place. Somewhere below her and her son. Somewhere in the extra baggage category. She thought today was the day she finally cut that baggage loose. She thought she would walk away looking like the strong, practical widow who did what needed to be done. She didn't know she was about to be exposed in front of the same audience she'd chosen for my humiliation. Because what Melissa didn't know was this. I already owned the house she thought she was taking away from me, and I was done staying quiet. To understand how we got here, you need to know how it started. My name is Haley, and I grew up in that house. The little white one at the end of Sycamore Lane with peeling blue shutters and a big maple tree trembling over the yard. The driveway was cracked, the fence leaned a little, and the roof always needed more work than we could afford. But it was home. My earliest memory is of sitting cross-legged on the living room floor in one of my dad's old t-shirts. my hands covered in finger paint, bright streaks of red, blue, and yellow smeared across a huge sheet of paper on the coffee table and, accidentally, on the side of the couch. "Haley," my dad said, laughing helplessly as he took in the mess. "The couch does not need more color, Princess." "Yes, it does," I argued, dead serious. "It's boring." He shook his head, still smiling, and lifted me up, careful not to smear paint on his work shirt. He smelled like motor oil, coffee, and that cheap soap he always bought in bulk. Back then, it was just him and me. My mom left when I was 3. I don't remember the details. I don't remember fighting or yelling. I just remember standing at the window one day and watching a car drive away, and then my dad kneeling down next to me, voice low and steady. "It's just you and me now, kiddo," he said. "And that's enough." And for years, it was. We didn't have much, but he never let it feel like we were poor. We had rustic grilled cheese when he burned dinner. We had indoor waterfalls when the roof leaked. We had private movie premieres on an old laptop on the coffee table, with dollar store popcorn and blankets. He worked at an auto shop all day, came home greasy and exhausted, but still somehow found the energy to help me with homework, play silly card games, or tell me stories until I smiled again. And he always talked about the house. "One thing I'll give you no matter what, Haley," he said one evening as we painted my room a bright, sunny yellow, "is a home. This house is our anchor. I don't care how many cars I have to fix, this place stays with us. One day, it'll be in your name. You'll always have a place to come back to." I believed him completely. I didn't know then that he'd end up keeping that promise in a way that would save me later. When I was 10, things started to change. That's when Melissa walked into our lives. She came into the auto shop one sticky summer afternoon. I was sitting in the corner, sweaty and bored, reading a worn-out paperback while my dad finished up with a customer. I heard the tap, tap, tap of heels on concrete before I saw her. She walked in wearing a fitted dress and high heels that looked way too clean for a place like that. Her hair was glossy, her lipstick bold red. She pushed her sunglasses up onto her head and smiled. "I was told you're the best mechanic in town," she said. I'd never seen my dad so flustered around a customer. He wiped his hands on his rag twice before answering. "I do my best, ma'am," he said. "What seems to be the problem?" They talked. He checked her car. He offered her coffee, which he never did for anyone. He laughed more than usual. I watched the whole thing from my chair, my book open but forgotten. At one point, she glanced over at me. "Your daughter?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, pride in his voice. "This is Haley. She's the boss around here." She smiled at me. How sweet. It was polite, soft. I remember wanting to like her, wanting him to be happy. They started seeing each other. At first, everything felt shiny and new. She brought fancy cookies when she came over. She complimented my school drawings. She laughed at his jokes even when they weren't funny. She called me sweetheart and honey, and for a girl who had no real memory of having a mom, that felt nice. For a while. But little things started to bother me. The way she flinched at the smell of his work clothes. The way she talked about money like it was more important than anything. "You're so smart," she'd say to my dad. "You could get a better job than that dirty shop. Something in an office. Something that pays what you're worth." He would just shrug. "The shop pays the bills, keeps the house. That's what matters." She didn't like when he brought up the house like that. When I was 12, they got married. She moved in, and she didn't come alone. Tyler, her son, was 8. Quiet, pale, always hunched over some handheld game console. His dad wasn't around. Melissa barely spoke about him, and Tyler never asked. I tried to be hopeful. New family, new chapter. Maybe it would be good. At first, it was okay. She cooked a few big family dinners and posted pictures online of us around the table. She bought us new clothes just because. She made it look like a perfect blended home. But when my dad wasn't home, things slid sideways. Her voice changed. Politeness became sharpness. She stopped calling me sweetheart and started calling me girl, like I wasn't even worth remembering by name. "Girl, you left your shoes by the door again. Girl, don't leave your backpack on the couch." If Tyler left his shoes in the doorway, she just picked them up and laughed. "Boys," she'd say fondly, "their heads are always in the clouds." If I left a plate in the sink, I got a 15-minute lecture about responsibility. "Haley, why are there dishes in the sink?" she'd demand. "Those are Tyler's," I'd say. "I don't care. You're older. Set an example." If she needed help carrying groceries, she never called Tyler. She called me. I tried telling my dad. I tried explaining the difference between how she treated me and how she treated her son. But he would just sigh and rub his forehead. "Haley, she's trying," he'd say. "Blending families is hard. Don't make me pick sides." So I stopped asking him to, but I started watching her more closely. I noticed how she lit up when money came up in conversations, how she always brought the topic back to finances, to security, to what we deserve. And slowly, another truth settled in my chest. She did not see me as her family. She saw me as extra weight, and extra weight can be dropped. By the time I was 15, my jar of just-in-case money was already hidden under my bed. Every birthday bill from Aunt Lisa, every babysitting dollar, every extra shift I picked up walking dogs or tutoring little kids. I opened a savings account with my aunt's help and put as much as I could there. I didn't know exactly what I was preparing for. I just knew I didn't want to be at anyone's mercy, especially not hers. Then my dad got sick. At first it was small things. He was tired more often. He'd cough and wave it off. "Getting old," he'd joke. But the jokes dried up when the tests came back. Cancer. I still see the doctor's office sometimes when I close my eyes. The clean, cold walls. The way my dad's hands shook just once and then went very still. The way Melissa sat up straighter, her expression sharpening like she was already doing the math. "Of course, we'll do everything we can," the doctor said. On the drive home, the car was silent, until Melissa spoke. "We have to be practical," she said. "Hospital bills, medications, time off work. We need to look at the house, at the finances, at what we can sell." My dad's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "We're not selling the house." "Don't be stubborn," she snapped. "We might not have a choice." His jaw tensed. "The house is staying. I made a promise." A promise to me. I sat in the back seat, staring at the back of their heads, feeling like I was underwater. The world was muffled, distant. That was the first time I realized that where I saw memories, she saw money. As his illness got worse, she took over more and more. The bills, the calls, the paperwork. At first it felt like she was stepping up. Then I started noticing things. Unopened bills shoved into drawers, letters from the bank with her handwriting scrawled across them. Her whispering in the kitchen late at night, her words clipped and urgent. "Of course I'm doing everything I can," she'd say on the phone. "Once things are finalized in my name, it'll be easier." In her name. One afternoon, when my dad was asleep in his chair, I walked into the kitchen and found her going through a thick folder of documents. "What are you doing?" I asked. She jumped, then quickly closed the folder. "Handling adult things," she said. "Someone has to. We can't rely on your father forever." I reached for the folder, but she pulled it to her chest. "This is not your concern. You're still a kid." "I'm almost 17, I said. "Exactly," she said smoothly. "Almost, not quite. So let the grown-ups sort this out." She was wrong about one thing. There was at least one grown-up in the house who didn't trust her completely. My dad. A few months before he died, he called me into his room and asked me to close the door. He was thinner, his cheeks hollow, his hair patchy from treatments. He looked so fragile it made my chest ache. "Come sit," he said, patting the side of the bed. I sat, trying not to cry. "Listen," he rasped. "We need to talk about later." "I don't want to," I whispered. "Me neither," he said, a small, tired smile tugging at his mouth. "But we have to. Because you, Haley, are not going to be left floating with nothing. Do you understand me?" I nodded, tears already burning at the corners of my eyes. "I talked to Patel," he said. "We made some changes, some protections." "What kind of changes?" I asked. He took a slow, painful breath. "The house. It's yours. When the time is right. Officially, legally. We put it into a trust. He'll explain the details better, but the short version is, the house goes to you. No matter what." My heart started pounding. "But Melissa? She'll be taken care of," he said quickly. "I'm not throwing her into the street. There's insurance, shared accounts. But this house..." His voice grew firmer. "This house is for you. We built this life before she came along. I promised you a home. I'm keeping that promise." "She's going to be furious." I whispered. He squeezed my hand, his grip still strong. Then let her be furious. You don't owe her your future. You don't owe her your safety. This is not about her feelings. This is about you having one thing in this world that no one else can take from you. He paused, catching his breath. Haley, he said quietly, you are not a guest in your own life. Don't let anyone treat you like you are. Not her. Not anyone. 2 weeks later, he was gone. The funeral was a blur of black clothes, flowers, and people saying the same tired lines. I'm so sorry for your loss. He was a great man. If you need anything, let us know. Melissa cried loudly, clinging to people's hands, calling herself a widow over and over. This is so hard for us, she'd say, as if we were some kind of united front. I stood off to the side with my Aunt Lisa, just trying to breathe. After the funeral, we went to Mr. Patel's office. Dark wood shelves, diplomas on the wall, a big window that let in too much light. He read my father's will, money, accounts, the car, small things. Melissa leaned forward when he mentioned the house. And the property? She asked. Patel glanced at me before answering. Your husband was very clear. The house will be placed into a trust with Haley as the sole trustee and beneficiary. The room went still. I'm sorry, Melissa said, eyes narrowing. What? He wanted to ensure his daughter always had a home. Patel explained calmly. You are allowed to reside there, of course, but legally the property belongs to Haley under the conditions he laid out. Melissa stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. No, he would never do that without telling me. He did tell you, Patel said gently. We discussed it in your presence a few months ago. It was a very emotional meeting. You may not recall the exact... I remember just fine, she snapped. And I know my husband. He would not leave me with nothing. You are not left with nothing, he replied evenly. You have access to certain funds, assets, and accounts, but the house is designated. This is ridiculous, she hissed. We'll talk about this later. And she did. At home, in the kitchen, with the overhead light casting sharp shadows across her face. You have poisoned him against me, she said, slamming a drawer shut. He filled your head with ideas. He always did this, you know, dramatic gestures instead of practical decisions. He was keeping a promise, I said quietly. She laughed. It was not a nice sound. You think you're special because of this? Because your name is on some piece of paper? You're a child, 18 and broke. That house will eat you alive. I'm 17, I said. Still. Exactly, she said. You're barely anything. You have no idea how the real world works. You'll see. Let's see how far this little trust carries you when the bills start piling up. She stormed off, and I stood there, trembling. Not because I was afraid of the house, because I knew this wasn't the end. This was the beginning of a quiet war. She didn't scream. She didn't slam doors. She didn't throw anything. Instead, she got polite. Too polite. Good morning, she'd say with a tight smile. Evening, she'd mumble, eyes on her phone. She avoided mentioning the house at all. But I caught her on the phone one night, voice low and sharp. Yes, I know the market is good, she whispered. I just need certain obstacles moved. Once things are in order, I can make decisions. Another night, I walked into the kitchen and found her talking to a man in a blazer, with a leather folder open in front of him. He jumped up when he saw me. You must be Haley, he said with a too bright smile. I'm Dan, a friend of your mother's. She's not my mother, I said calmly. His face flushed. Ah, well, I'm a housing consultant. Your stepmother and I were just discussing possibilities. This is a lovely property, great potential. My eyes snapped to Melissa. She smiled, all practiced sweetness. We're just weighing options, she said. You know, seeing what's out there. Options for what? I asked. Don't be so dramatic, she replied. We're just looking. With the market this good, it would be stupid not to at least talk to someone. You want us to be smart, don't you? Dan cleared his throat. Of course, any major decisions would require all involved parties to sign off. But your stepmother here was asking about possible listing prices. This area is in high demand. I stared at him, then back at her. Listing prices, I repeated. For this house? Yes, he said, oblivious to the tension. With a few updates, you could get... Thank you, Dan. Melissa cut in sharply. We'll be in touch. He gathered his folder, eyes flickering between us. Well, he said, think about what we discussed. This kind of opportunity doesn't... Goodbye, Dan, she said. He left. The second the door closed, she turned on me. You are impossible, she spat. You just had to embarrass me. Again. All I did was ask a question, I said. You're the one trying to sell a house that isn't yours. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You think hiding behind Patel makes you powerful? She asked. You think Daddy's little trust fund house makes you untouchable? Grow up. I've been the one paying the utilities. I've been the one managing everything while you play sad orphan at school and wave your little part-time paychecks around like they mean something. I've been working too, I said, anger bubbling up but staying under control. I've been studying, saving, and trying to stay afloat in the same grief you keep using as a story prop. And while you were planning how to turn my dad's house into your big payout, he was planning how to protect me from you doing exactly that. Her smile vanished. You have no idea what's coming, she said in a low, dangerous tone. No idea. Enjoy your senior year. Enjoy your silly little prom and your part-time job. Because when that diploma is in your hand, this dynamic changes. I am not tied to you. I am not babysitting you. When I leave, you're going to see exactly how small you really are. She walked out, heels hitting the floor like hammers. I stood there, heart pounding, but underneath the fear, something else was growing. Resolve. She thought she could time her betrayal perfectly. She thought if she waited until I graduated, until I was legally an adult, she could abandon me and still look justified. She thought people would nod and say, well, she's 18, it's not her stepmom's responsibility. What she didn't know was that I had my own timing. I wasn't waiting for her to hurt me. I was waiting for the right moment to stop her. The day before graduation, I sat in Mr. Patel's office again. He listened as I told him everything. About the realtor, the phone calls, the threats hidden in gentle words. She keeps talking about selling the house, I said. About moving. About how once the house sells, things will be better for us. I think she's counting on me to panic and sign whatever she puts in front of me when she finally leaves. He nodded slowly. That fits with her pattern. I'm not signing anything, I said. I just don't want to be blindsided again. You won't be, he said. Legally, she cannot sell or refinance the property without your explicit consent. As long as you understand your rights and refuse any documents you don't fully understand, you are safe. Is there any way she can trick me? I asked. Hide forms inside other forms? Lie about what they are? Anything she tries to trick you into signing would be challengeable in court, he said. But don't put yourself in that position. If she hands you papers, you tell her you'll run them by me. Every time. No exceptions. I nodded. I can do that? He studied me for a moment. You know, he said gently, you don't have to confront her publicly. You could simply ignore her attempts, and if she oversteps, we'll handle it quietly through legal channels. I know, I said, but she's going to make a scene tomorrow. I can feel it. She likes having an audience. She wants to stand there and cut me loose like she's doing me some tough love favor. I'm tired of being the one who stands there, crying and silent, while she writes the story. You want control of the narrative, he said. Yes, I replied. For once. He nodded slowly. Then I'll be there, at the ceremony. You don't have to. I promised your father I'd look out for you, he said. Sometimes that means more than just paperwork. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Thank you. He smiled a little. Just remember, you don't have to scream to be strong. Calm truth can be louder than shouting when you have the facts on your side. Graduation morning, I put on my blue gown in my small yellow bedroom, the same one my dad and I had painted years ago. The cracks in the ceiling were still there, the same ones I used to trace with my eyes when I couldn't sleep as a kid. I checked my reflection. I didn't look like a little girl anymore. I looked like someone who had been through too much and was still standing. I picked up my bag and made sure the envelope with the signed house documents was inside. Downstairs, Melissa was already ready. Navy dress, perfect makeup, heels on. She looked like she was headed to a business meeting, not her stepdaughter's graduation. You're going to be late, she said, checking her watch. Hurry up. I'm ready, I said. Tyler stood by the door in a wrinkled button-down, hands shoved in his pockets. Congrats, he muttered, eyes on the floor. Thanks, I said. The drive to the school was silent. When we arrived, Melissa's entire demeanor changed. Her posture straightened, her smile softened, her voice turned sweeter. To everyone else, she looked like a proud stepmother who'd weathered tragedy and was still standing strong for her family. She had no idea this was her last performance on my stage. The ceremony itself felt like moving underwater. Speeches about the future, about hope, about chasing dreams. Names called one after another. Caps bobbing above rows of kids who suddenly looked too young and too old at the same time. When my name was called, I walked up, took my diploma, smiled for the photo, walked down the steps, and felt my heart pounding as I headed toward the crowd. Straight toward her. Straight toward the moment she'd been waiting for, and straight toward the moment I'd been preparing for. Out in the parking lot, with balloons swaying and cameras flashing, she called out loudly, "Haley, over here, let's take a picture." We gathered, we posed, we smiled for the camera, and then she decided it was time for her big speech. "Now that we have that," she said, pulling her arm from around my shoulder, "we should probably tell you, Haley, it's time." "You're moving," I said quietly, instead of asking. She blinked, surprised I'd guessed so quickly, then recovered. "Yes, Tyler and I are moving. New place, new chapter. It's what your father would have wanted." "And I'm not part of that chapter," I said. Her lips curled into that satisfied little smile. "No, you're not. You're an adult now. It's time for you to figure out your own life." I asked about the house. She told me she'd already started the process, that a realtor was involved, that we'll get a great offer. She announced it like she was giving some big, brave speech at an awards show. My life as her prop. She wanted people to see how strong she was, how practical, how she refused to let dead weight hold her back. What she didn't expect was the voice that spoke up behind me. "Actually," Mr. Patel said, stepping a little closer, "you have no authority to sell that property." Everyone's attention shifted to him. He stood there in his gray suit, calm, collected, like he'd been waiting for this line in a play. "Who are you?" someone whispered. Melissa, however, knew exactly who he was. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "I'm here as her father's attorney," he said, "and as Haley's." He paused, then added, "And to make sure there's no confusion about who actually owns the house you're talking about." "This is not the time or place for this," Melissa hissed. "You brought it up," he said evenly. "By referencing a sale you have no right to arrange." My heart pounded, but my mind felt clear. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't falling apart. For the first time in a long time, I felt like the ground I stood on was solid. I turned to him. "Can you explain?" I asked, "because I think some people here might be getting the wrong idea." He nodded. "Of course. Your father, before he passed, placed the house into a trust. Haley is the sole trustee and beneficiary. Legally, that means she is the owner. Her stepmother has no power to sell, transfer, or use the property as collateral. Any attempt to do so without Haley's fully informed consent would be invalid and possibly illegal." A low murmur passed through the small crowd. Melissa's face flushed red. "You're all acting like I'm some criminal," she snapped. "I have been paying the bills. I have been holding everything together while she flung an arm toward me, goes to school and plays victim. And now you're going to stand here and call me a liar?" "No one called you a liar," Patel said. "We're just clarifying facts." She pointed a shaking finger at me. "You planned this. You brought him here to humiliate me." I shook my head. "I asked him to be here so I wouldn't be alone when you tried to humiliate me." Somewhere behind me, I heard Mia whisper, "Oh my God," under her breath. "You have been planning to leave me behind for months," I continued, my voice steady. "You told people you'd sell the house and start a new life. You told them you'd be losing everything because of me. What you didn't tell them is that my dad left this house to me on purpose, so I wouldn't end up exactly where you're trying to put me today, homeless and desperate, right after graduation." Her eyes burned into mine. "You think this house makes you powerful?" she hissed. "You think some piece of paper makes you grown? You're still a stupid little girl clinging to your daddy's ghost." I didn't look away. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I am not your responsibility. You made that perfectly clear when you announced you were moving without me. You and Tyler are free to go wherever you want. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to beg you to stay. She looked thrown for a second. She hadn't expected that. But you are wrong about the house, I continued. I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope. This isn't just some piece of paper. These are the documents that finalized the transfer when I turned 18. I signed them weeks ago. Legally, the house is mine. You've been talking to realtors about selling something you do not own. She stared at the envelope like it was something poisonous. You're bluffing, she said. You wouldn't dare. Do you want Mr. Patel to explain them again? I asked. Or should we take them to your realtor and ask if he still wants to start the process, knowing you have no right to sign anything? That would be a very awkward conversation for him, Patel added calmly, and potentially a serious problem for you. Aunt Lisa finally stepped forward, unable to stay quiet anymore. You tried to cut her off in front of everyone, Melissa, she said, on her graduation day, after promising my brother you'd look out for her, and now you're angry that she's not letting you sell the one thing he left her to keep her safe. Don't you start, Melissa snapped. You always hated me. You always wanted him to put everything in your name. He didn't put it in my name, my aunt cut in. He put it in his daughter's, because he knew who actually treated that house like a home instead of a lottery ticket. Tyler shifted next to Melissa. His face was pale. Wait, he said quietly. So, the house really is hers? For real? Yes, I said, looking at him instead of her. Dad wanted you taken care of in other ways. But the house, he wanted that to be my safety. He told me so himself. He turned to his mother. You knew? He asked. You knew and you told everyone we were losing everything because of her? Tyler, she said sharply, this is not the time. Is it true? He demanded louder this time. Did you know the house was hers? Her lips pressed together. Your stepfather made a mistake, she said through her teeth. He let his guilt and his emotions. He honored his promise, I said quietly. The crowd around us had grown. Parents, classmates, teachers, neighbors. Some tried to look like they weren't paying attention, but they were. For years, Melissa had controlled the story inside the house. Right now, that was gone. I don't want to fight you, I said. I don't want to drag this out. I'm not trying to ruin your life, but you don't get to ruin mine either. I'm done letting you talk about my home like it's your asset. I'm done letting you pretend you're doing something noble by cutting me off when what you're really doing is trying to walk away with what isn't yours. Her eyes filled with angry tears. You enjoy this, don't you? She said. You enjoy making me look like the villain. Poor little Haley, the brave orphan. Go ahead. Keep the house. See how far it gets you when the roof leaks and you can't afford to fix it. See how proud you feel when you're alone in that creaking box with bills you can't pay. I didn't rise to the bait. That's my problem to solve, I said, and I'll solve it. Because this house isn't just a box you can flip. It's the one thing I have left of my dad that no one can take. You tried, you failed, that's it. She was shaking now, whether from anger or humiliation or both, I couldn't tell. Come on, she snapped at Tyler. We're leaving. He hesitated, looking at me. Tyler, I said softly, you're always welcome here. If you ever need anything. This is still your dad's house too, even if your name isn't on the papers. His throat bobbed. Thanks, he murmured. Melissa grabbed his arm and pulled. This time he went. They walked away, her heels striking the pavement hard, his shoulders slumped. Silence hung in the air for a long moment after they disappeared into the sea of cars and people. Then Mia threw her arms around me so fast I nearly dropped my diploma. You owned the house this whole time? She half yelled into my shoulder. Why didn't you tell me? I laughed a little, though it came out shaky. Because I felt like if I said it out loud, something would go wrong and it would disappear. Aunt Lisa's hand landed gently on my back. You did so good, kid, she whispered. He'd be so proud of you. For the first time since he died, I actually believed that. Revenge doesn't always feel like some big, satisfying explosion. Sometimes it feels like quietly refusing to move when someone tries to shove you out of the life you've built. That afternoon, after the crowd thinned and the balloons drifted off and the parking lot started to empty, Aunt Lisa drove me home, my home. Our house looked smaller as we pulled up the street, a little more worn down, like it had been holding its breath too. Inside, everything felt in between. Boxes lined the hallway. Some of Melissa's things were already gone. Some of her framed photos had disappeared from the walls, leaving pale rectangles behind. Mr. Patel met us there not long after, and together we walked room by room. He explained what needed to be sorted, what was clearly hers, what had been my dad's, what was now, without question, mine. She can come back to move out the rest of her belongings, he said. But we'll set the terms. She doesn't get to storm in whenever she wants. You are the homeowner now. You set the boundaries. The words, "you are the homeowner," felt surreal. 18 and still half broken from everything that had happened. And suddenly, I was in charge of an entire house. After he left, Aunt Lisa and I sat on the living room floor with takeout containers between us. "So," she said, twirling noodles around her fork, "what's the plan?" "What plan?" I asked. "You're the one with a house deed and a high school diploma," she said. "That's more than a lot of people start with. What do you want to do?" I stared at the walls, at the old couch with a faint paint stain from when I was 4, at the window where my dad used to wave at me when he left for work. "I don't want this place to just be some heavy thing on my shoulders," I said. "I want it to be what he meant it to be. Safe. Home. Not a secret weapon. Not a burden." "Then that's what you'll make it," she said simply. "You're allowed to need help. You're allowed to take it slow. You're allowed to learn." The next few weeks were messy. Bills started coming with my name on them. I had to call companies and move accounts over. I sat at the kitchen table with Aunt Lisa and made a budget for the first time in my life. The house creaked at night in a way it never had before. Or maybe I just never noticed. Every sound made me jump. The loneliness hit hard. No matter how much I didn't like Melissa, the house had never been this quiet when she was there. There had always been someone stomping around, slamming doors, talking on the phone, reminding me I wasn't alone even when I felt unseen. Now, the silence felt huge. One night, staring at the numbers on my budget sheet, I called Aunt Lisa. "I don't know if I can do this," I admitted. "The property taxes, the utilities, the repairs, it's a lot." Maybe she was right about one thing. Maybe I am in over my head. "She wasn't right," my aunt said gently. "She was angry. That's different. But you also don't have to do this alone. You have options." "Like what?" I asked. "Like letting the house help you," she answered. "You have spare rooms, don't you? Rent one, or two. There are students, workers, people who need a safe place to live. You could use the income, they could use the room. Win-win." It scared me at first. The idea of strangers living in my dad's house made my stomach knot. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I talked it over with Mr. Patel. He helped me draw up a simple rental agreement. Clear, fair, nothing complicated. A week later, I posted an ad. A few days after that, I met Jenna at a coffee shop. She was a nursing student whose on-campus housing had gotten too expensive. She worked late shifts at the hospital and needed somewhere quiet, safe, and affordable nearby. She seemed nervous. I was nervous too. But as we talked, I realized she didn't want to take anything from me. She didn't see the house as an advantage to grab. She just needed somewhere to land, like me. We walked through the house together on a sunny afternoon. I showed her the small back room, the shared kitchen, the bathroom. I told her about quiet hours, about chores, about rent and bills. "This place feels good," she said softly, like somebody cared about it. I swallowed past the tightness in my throat. "Someone did," I said. She moved in the next month. We weren't instantly best friends. Sometimes we barely saw each other, our work schedules crossing in the hallway. But slowly the house started to feel less empty. I'd come home to the sound of her humming in the kitchen, or see her shoes by the door. It felt like the house was breathing again. One evening, as we sat on the porch steps with plastic cups of lemonade, she said, "You know, this place feels safe. Not because it's in a good neighborhood, but because it feels like somebody fought for it." I let out a little laugh. "Yeah," I said. "Somebody did." Almost 3 months after the graduation showdown, I got a text from an unknown number. "It's Tyler." I just stared at the screen for a minute. Then another message came. "I got your number from Aunt Lisa. Hope that's okay." My fingers hovered over the keys before I typed back. "Yeah, it's okay. How are you?" "It's weird here," he wrote after a moment. "Smaller place. Mom is still mad. She tells everyone you stole the house. I just wanted to say I didn't know about everything. The trust, the will, any of it. She never told me. She just said we were losing everything. My chest ached. I believe you, I replied. None of this was your fault. He sent another text. I still miss him. I know he wasn't my real dad, but still. I know, I wrote. I miss him too, every day. There was a long pause before his next message. For what it's worth, I don't think you're the bad guy. I think he just did what he thought was right. My eyes stung. Thanks, I wrote. If you ever need a break from there, you know where the house is. 3 blinking dots appeared. Then nothing. Then 3 dots again. Maybe, he finally replied. We didn't suddenly become close. We didn't fix everything. But the line between us wasn't completely cut, and that mattered to me. As for Melissa, I heard bits and pieces over time. She told people I took everything. She talked about how unfair it was, about how she'd wasted years raising someone else's child only to be kicked out in the end. I used to get so angry hearing that. I used to pace the living room, fists clenched, imagining all the things I'd say if she showed up at my door. Now, I mostly feel sorry for her. Not in a gentle, forgiving way, just in a sad, distant way. She had a chance to be part of something real, to be family, to be safe in more than just a financial sense. She chose control instead. She chose money over connection. She chose ego over compassion. And in the end, she walked away with neither the house nor my loyalty. I stayed in the place she tried to remove me from. That was my revenge, not hurting her, not ruining her life, just refusing to let her decide mine. Sometimes I walk through the house at night and imagine what it would look like if she'd gotten what she wanted. Fresh paint, new floors, a for sale sign on the lawn, strangers walking through, criticizing the fixtures, inspecting cabinets, discussing offers. I imagine her standing there, smiling at them, saying, "We've had some good years here, but it's time to move on." I imagine myself nowhere. Then I look around at the slightly crooked picture frames, the dent in the hallway wall where I once crashed into it with my bike, the burn mark on the counter from that time my dad forgot he'd put a hot pan down. And I think, no, this is where I'm supposed to be. My dad once told me that a home isn't just where you sleep. It's where you know the stories of the cracks in the walls, he said. It's where you can walk in the dark and still not hit anything. It's where you don't feel like a guest. For a long time, Melissa tried to make me feel like a guest, like I was on borrowed time, like anything I had could be taken away by her choices. She tried to use the house as a leash, as leverage. In the end, she walked out without it. I stayed. I got a job, I saved money. I fixed the most urgent issues around the house one by one. I started taking community college classes nearby, commuting from the same driveway I used to ride my bike on as a kid. There were hard nights. Nights I wondered if I'd made a mistake. Nights when the house felt too big, too quiet, too much. But there were good nights, too. Nights sitting on the porch with Jenna, sharing stupid jokes after long days. Afternoons when Aunt Lisa came over and we cooked one of Dad's old recipes and laughed when it came out just as badly as it used to. Days when I'd get the mail, see my name printed on a bill next to the address, and instead of feeling dread, I'd feel proud. This is mine. Not because I won some fight, but because my dad loved me enough to think ahead. Because I loved myself enough to hold on to what he left me. People sometimes think revenge is about destroying the other person. And sure, there's a dark part of me that wanted her to feel what she tried to make me feel. Small, helpless, thrown aside. But the older I get, the more I realize that real revenge, the kind that doesn't eat you alive from the inside, is simpler. It's living the life they told you you'd never have. It's standing in the house they said you'd lose, turning the key in the lock and knowing you stayed. It's refusing to agree with the story they wrote for you. Melissa tried to teach me a lesson on my graduation day. She wanted to show me that in the real world, nobody owes you anything. That love is conditional. That security is a gift someone can take back when they're done with you. But my dad had already taught me a different lesson. He taught me that when someone truly loves you, they don't mind sharing their security with you. They don't see your safety as a threat to their comfort. They don't weaponize what you depend on. He taught me that promises can outlast people. He taught me that I wasn't a guest in his life. I was his family. The house is proof of that. And every time I hear about someone like her, someone using money or housing or support as a way to control someone else, I think back to that day in the parking lot with my diploma in one hand and my future in the other. She said, "You're not coming with us." She said it like a sentence, but it turned out to be my release. Because once someone shows you exactly where you stand, you stop wasting time trying to earn a place in their story. You write your own. That's what I did. In a little white house with peeling blue shutters at the end of Sycamore Lane. The house my stepmom thought she'd walk away with. The house my dad put in my hands. The house that became my answer to her betrayal. Not by burning it down, not by selling it out of spite, but by staying.